My name is Dr. David Driscoll. I was born and brought up in Melrose, the youngest of 10 children. I went to the Gooch Elementary School and the original Roosevelt Middle School before attending Melrose High School. I was on the 1959 state champion football team and graduated from MHS in 1960. After graduation, I attended Boston College and majored in mathematics. And after graduating from Boston College, I taught in Somerville and then came to Melrose High School as a math teacher. In addition to teaching, I was the assistant coach for the 1967 state championship basketball team. And in 1968, I was the first varsity soccer coach for Melrose High School in the Middlesex League. I was active in the community fighting for a new high school, and in 1972 I became the business manager for the district, and in 1984 superintendent of schools. As superintendent of schools, I started women's soccer, citywide PTO, Parents for After School Learning. I also made the recommendation to close the Franklin School and transfer the 6th grade to the middle school, and then the 9th grade to the high school. In 1993, I became the Deputy Commissioner of Education at the Department of Education. And in 1998, I was acting commissioner, and then in 1999, commissioner. Under my leadership, Massachusetts was the first state to have students score the highest achievement on national tests. We were also the first state to be approved under the No Child Left Behind national legislation. And I was specifically asked by Senator Kennedy and President Bush to have Massachusetts take the lead in implementing that law. I retired in 2007 and have served on a number of boards, worked in many states and several large districts across the country. All 4 of my children went to the Merrill schools, followed by 3 of my grandchildren. To have this great learning commons at Melrose High School named after me is truly humbling and a great honor. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jen McAndrew, and I have the privilege to chair the Melrose School Committee, and especially to welcome you all today to the Driscoll Learning Commons. We're so honored to be joined by David Driscoll, his wife Kathy, their children and grandchildren, and many members of their family. And so it is very fitting that we will begin today's event by welcoming forward Kelsey Rowe, David and Kathy's granddaughter, and a Melrose High School graduate, to sing the national anthem. Please rise as you are able.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Beautiful, Kelsey. Thank you so much. Please remain standing, sorry. As we now welcome another of David and Kathy's grandchildren, Amy Rowe, who is a current student at Melrose High School. She and her friends and teammates will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Amy and friends, here they come. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all so much. Today's program will include remarks and reflections on David's remarkable career in public education, nationally, across the Commonwealth, and especially right here in Melrose. As a teacher, a coach, a business manager, a superintendent, the Deputy Commissioner of Education, and of course, as the 22nd Commissioner of Education for the Commonwealth. A true educator through and through. It is not an understatement to say that David has devoted his life to the promise that every child deserves the very best public education, and that our policies and our investments need to support that promise. He also understands that our work in this regard is never done. David is not the only Driscoll who has dedicated their career to public education. And so I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge Kathy Driscoll, who is a lifelong educator, with our thanks. Thank you for your service and for the many students whose lives you have touched, Kathy. Let me also welcome the many Melrose leaders and elected officials who are here today. State Representative Caitlin Vergara-Bedian, Mayor Paul Brodeur, who we'll hear from in a moment, former Mayor Galen Furner, former Mayor Rob Dolan, City Council President Chris Sinella, City Councilor Mark Garibay, City Councilor Jen Grigoritis, and my colleagues on the school committee, Vice Chair Jen Razzie Thomas, and our incoming Chair and Vice Chair Margaret Driscoll and Ed O'Connell. I also want to mention and say how pleased we are to welcome today the Education Commissioner for the state of Massachusetts, Jeff Riley. Thank you all for being here with us. I know we also have several former school committee members and city councilors here, as well as a cadre of dedicated volunteers, educators, and supporters across Melrose. Thank you all for your support of the Melrose Public Schools and our students. It is now my pleasure to introduce our mayor, and of course, also a member of our school committee. Mayor Paul Brodeur, please come forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair McAndrew. I do want to point out at the outset that this is not the end of the line. Dr. Driscoll still works as a consultant and continues to contribute. I don't think this is a coronation, but a stop along the way in terms of recognition. We don't want to put you out to pasture. This is a celebration, folks. Okay? So good morning, and thank you for joining us here as we officially celebrate the renaming of the Melrose High School Learning Commons as the Driscoll Learning Commons in honor of Dr. David Driscoll. And like Chair McAndrew, I want to first welcome our special guest, Dr. Driscoll and his wife, Kathy, his children, his many grandchildren, and it is an honor to be with you all today to celebrate this special moment together. And of course, I also want to recognize Chair McAndrew, Melrose High School Principal Jason Merrill, and the rest of the school committee, pardon me, for helping to organize this amazing event. As Jen said, we're here to celebrate the legacy, the ongoing legacy of Dr. Driscoll. He is the youngest of 11 first-generation Irish-American children. He has lived in Melrose his entire life and is the product of the Melrose Public Schools, having attended the Gooch Elementary School, the Roosevelt Middle School, and Melrose High School, though not this one. He was a member of the 1959 Class B state championship football team and was voted best-natured boy. That continues as he certainly continues to be the best-natured man in the city. After graduating from Melrose High School in 1960, He received his bachelor degree in mathematics from Boston College, much like my father did 10 years prior. And while he began his teaching career in Somerville, we won't hold that against him, that's okay, because he quickly came back to Melrose, where he made a lasting impact on our community. And as an educator here in Melrose, Dr. Driscoll set the foundation for learning in the Melrose Public Schools. During his 5 years as a classroom educator, he positively affected thousands of students in the Melrose Public Schools, and he was noted as a favorite teacher by many of his students. Dr. Driscoll taught high school mathematics for 5 years, after which, as Jen said, he went on to become the business manager for the Melrose Public Schools, assistant superintendent, and then superintendent for our district. But Dr. Driscoll's legacy, I think we all know, is not the sum of his titles, but rather the sum of his actions and impact as a professional and as a community member that he had on his students and our community. He was the assistant basketball coach when the school won the 1967 state championship. He was the first soccer coach in the Middlesex League, and he developed the curriculum for a new course designed to help our students prepare for the SATs. He also had a leading role in the creation of the Melrose Parent-Teacher Organization and the Parents for After-School Learning program, and implemented a program where over 100 parents volunteered to run the Melrose Elementary School libraries. And he was a staunch advocate to build a new high school, this high school, and was instrumental in the passage of a referendum to build the new high school that we are standing here today, and where thousands of students, myself included, have walked through these halls to gain an education. And I want you all to think about this. When that debate was going on, it was the early 1970s, which I believe Dr. Driscoll puts you somewhere in your 20s at the time. So it truly is a legacy of investment and commitment starting as a very young professional. He made sure about some of the smaller things. He made sure the band had uniforms, replaced school roofs and windows, purchased computers and playground equipment. He is simply the gold standard for public servants. Even when he left the administration here, the district, to become the Deputy Commissioner of Education, just days after the Mass Education Reform Law went into effect, and later as Commissioner, his policy and advocacy work continued to positively affect our community, our students, and the entirety of his career will continue to touch students for generations to come. He has been a leader here in the district, he has been a leader in the Commonwealth, and he is now sharing that expertise as a consultant across the country for the good of students, again, across the United States of America. Dr. Driscoll, sir, we are here today to celebrate your hard work and dedication to our students and to education at the local, regional, and national level, sir. We are forever grateful for your service to our community. Melrose has been blessed to have you and your family as part of our community, and we thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you so much for those inspirational words, Mayor Brodeur. It is now my pleasure to welcome forward the 24th Commissioner of Elementary and Secondary Education of the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Mr. Jeff Riley.
For the next 2.5 hours, I'd like to review the rules and regulations of the Department of Elementary and Good morning, everyone. I'm actually only here to thank Kathy for putting up with David for all this. So when I was thinking about what I was going to say about David, I had to think to myself, what do I really want to say? Because there's certainly a lot to say. I think I'll start with this. I have 2 teenagers, but when they were younger, they were wildly different children. I had my older son was in some ways gifted. Things came very easy to him. And my daughter, on the other hand, had challenges. She was going to be different when she went to school, and her mom and I were worried about her. She was going to have to wear one of those special weight vests in the classroom. She was going to have the elastics underneath her chair. She was going to have special needs. She was going to be different. And I always worried that she was going to hate school or be bullied. But the truth is my daughter loved school. She loved everything about school. In fact, from really kindergarten through 5th or 6th grade, I would come home from school and she would run to the door and say, "Daddy, Daddy, let's play school." Now, Daddy's played a lot of school. But I played with her because she just loved everything about it. And she was serious when she played school. When we played school, she was always the teacher. I was always the student. She had her objective. She had a do now. There were exit tickets. I always thought that the bathroom breaks were too infrequent. And I did not appreciate her using a squirt gun as a disciplinary device. Nonetheless, she loved everything about school. And she has grown so much. She's 18 now. She's almost 18 now in about a few weeks. And she's about to graduate from high school in Boston Latin with a 4.2 GPA. And as we get ready to send her to the convent, we know that she's going to be ready for whatever she wants to do in life. She is a child that could do anything or be anything she wants to be. She works so hard. But why is that? Why did that happen? And the truth is, it happened because she got to go to school in Massachusetts. She got to go to school in a state that values education. She got to go to school in a system really built by David Driscoll. People don't remember that back in the day, Massachusetts was in the middle of the pack in the country. We were in the 20s somewhere on the NAEP scores. Ed reform, of which Commissioner Driscoll is a pioneer, changed all that. They brought standards into the Commonwealth and accountability into the Commonwealth. They brought structure into our classrooms and made them these amazing, joyful places. And so Massachusetts rocketed from the middle of the pack to at or near number 1 and has been there for decades. Even after COVID, we stayed recently at number 1. Now I'd be very clear and say we lost a lot of ground. We may have just not lost as much as others, and that doesn't mean we should pat ourselves on the back. But I think we owe an incredible debt to the people who came before us, like Commissioner Driscoll, for the system they put up that helps so many kids. He's a legend in Massachusetts. He's a legend at the department where he would storm into meetings and say, "Does this have anything to do about kids? What are you people talking about?" And we try to bring that mindset to the department today to change this kind of Death Star, compliance-driven, DESE Department of Education into a place that's supportive of our schools and our districts. And we all owe all of that to Commissioner Driscoll. So I wanted to say again, thank you, Kathy. I don't know what you're still doing here, Frank. You're looking for the flowers, I know that. You're a charitable woman. I just wanted to say thank you for having me come today, and congratulations, David. I'm glad one of us made it out alive.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Riley, for being here today, for those words, and for your leadership and your partnership with districts like Melrose and across the Commonwealth. Next up, we will hear from Melrose High School Principal Jason Merrill. As the leader of this building, Principal Merrill leads with excellence and with heart. He uniquely understands the power and potential of this very space, the Driscoll Learning Commons, and we are so fortunate to have him here today and leading our high school. Principal Merrill.
Good morning, and thank you, and certainly humbled to be following the previous speakers. It's an honor today to be representing Melrose High School and Melrose Public Schools as we recognize Dr. Driscoll, a man who I've known since I was a child, as a resident and a product of the Melrose Public Schools. I'm so proud of what Melrose High School has become, and particularly our students and staff. We've strived to create a sense of belonging for all students, grounded in kindness and respect, while taking an innovative approach to education. We are constantly reflecting on how we can do business and how we can do business better. The Learning Commons, formerly the Resource Center, as many of you know, was subject to a redesign and reconstruction in 2015 and reopened at the start of the 2016-17 school year. Some of you may remember there was a bridge over to my right, your left, that connected to the old junior high school, which is no longer here since the new building was built. It's quickly become the hub of our school community. It's just the center of life and full of students and adults. It has become a center of collaboration and innovation for everyone. This unique space lends itself to larger group lessons and team meetings, collaboration amongst multiple groups and full class meetings. Tomorrow morning, there'll be 40 students participating in the finals of Poetry Out Loud right on this stage. Later in the year, there'll be students presenting their capstone presentations and talking about their senior internships. It provides a wonderful space for our students, both before and after school. The space has hosted student-led drama productions, mock elections, class meetings, parent and caregiver groups. Some of our most challenging coursework and research projects takes place right in this room and in the very chairs you're seated in. On the second floor of this space, which is considered part of the reconstruction, on the second floor you will see cutting-edge work in computer-aided design, architecture, computer science and programming, marketing, as well as our award-winning video production program, which is helping us out today with the ceremony, as well as our award-winning robotics program. It is amazing to see our students use the TV studio or utilize a 3D printer in order to demonstrate what they've learned. The Learning Commons has also been home to staff meetings, both building-based and district-wide professional development and collaborative opportunities for adults. And this is why Dr. Driscoll's legacy of innovation in putting students at the center makes this the perfect space to name in his honor. Dr. Driscoll has made it a lifelong mission to provide all public school students the best experience possible by taking an innovative and collaborative approach. Dr. Driscoll has left an incredible mark on the educational landscape here in Melrose, across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and across our nation. And that still goes on today. He's been visiting a lot lately as we prepare for this and taking meetings and working with other states across the country to help come out of the pandemic. So, as was previously said, certainly this legacy continues. It's brought me great joy to have the opportunity to spend more time with Dr. Driscoll the past several weeks as we've prepared for today, and I look forward to visits in the future and Dr. Driscoll spending time with our students. I can assure you that the future students in Melrose High School will learn about his legacy, but also about the man, a kind, humble, dedicated, and driven educator who always puts young people first. In closing, I would like to express my admiration and respect for Dr. Driscoll and what he has accomplished as a pioneer in education, and my appreciation to him as a friend to myself and Melrose High School. On behalf of the entire Melrose High School community, we are honored and humbled to be able to recognize you and your legacy with the renaming of this space to the Driscoll Learning Commons. Thank you all, and keep each other well.
Thank you, Principal Merrill. Beautifully said. It's almost time to hear from David himself, and to help introduce him, it's my pleasure to introduce to you his son, Bryan.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Can you hear me okay? As Jen said, it's just about time for the man of the hour. Last week, my father asked me if I was willing to participate in today's program. So we agreed for a hot dog and a beer that I would have the honor of introducing him. So I asked him, I said, Dad, is there anything you'd like me to include? He looked at me and said, yes. I don't want any of that happy horse and make sure you wrap it up by the time the Patriots are on. Thank you for your advice, Dad. Appreciate it. As you look at the wall, you can see that my father's career was the result of and really defined by a tremendous amount of hard work. I would also suggest, and think he would agree, that he benefited from some luck. First and foremost, and which has been mentioned a little bit, he was very, very lucky to meet my mother, Kathy, who has put up with him for over 50 years. And I think that in itself deserves a round of applause. He was lucky that he became commissioner at a time when the business community and legislature were prepared to invest in education. He was lucky to be surrounded by a team of capable, passionate individuals who believed in improving educational standards. And he was lucky that when he was in charge, there was no social media. I'm sure that some of his colorful language or hostile driving skills would have ended up on the front page of the Herald Educator. Most importantly, he was lucky to be born and raised in this community. Melrose provided my father a great upbringing and taught him the value of a hard day's work. He always appreciated Melrose and did all he could to give back. As superintendent, he had a bumper sticker on his door that read, "Wouldn't it be great if the schools had all the money and the Army needed to have a bake sale to buy a bomber?"
Yeah.
With that in mind, he helped raise millions of dollars for community projects, schools, and athletic programs. You could always find him selling raffle tickets, behind the griddle at the famous pancake breakfast fundraiser, and was not shy about volunteering his kids to wake up early in the weekends to lick envelopes and hold signs. Throughout his career, no matter how challenging things got at the state or federal level, my dad always had Melrose, and Melrose embraced him. On Fridays in the fall, he was in the stands at football games. He spent weekends on the sidelines of soccer fields, the evenings meeting friends for a cold beer at Turner's, or picking up a pizza at Petroni's. Only, of course, after Caruso's sadly closed. And any chance he got, he'd be up at the hood walking a quick 18. Melrose was the foundation for my father's professional success and has always provided an outlet for him. No matter how high he climbed in the world of education, he was first and foremost an MHS graduate, a local parent, and a neighbor who always had a refrigerator full of beer. Because of his dedication to the community and to education, it's only fitting that the Learning Commons will forever bear his name. I would like to thank the school committee for their unanimous vote in naming the Driscoll Learning Commons, and I'd like to read a few excerpts from the letters of support. From former Mayor Dolan. David Driscoll, proud MHS graduate and local kid, has lived the American dream using tools his parents, teachers, and community gave him. He propelled himself to the statewide and national stage as an educational leader and reformer. From Mayor Brodeur, his legacy goes far beyond the borders of Melrose, but his personal and professional roots remain here, and our community is better for it. Principal Merrill, this is a great opportunity for our school to honor Dr. Driscoll, as well as teach our students about the impact that this community member had on education, both locally and on a larger scale. Commissioner Riley, Dr. Driscoll is a legend in Massachusetts education circles. As commissioner, he was the key architect in our state moving from the middle of the pack to at or near the top in every statistical category. And from Governor Baker, the Commonwealth owes David a debt of gratitude for his committed service. With his commitment to improving the lives of our students on both the statewide and local levels, Dr. Driscoll embodies the spirit of public service in Massachusetts. Melrose is lucky to have him. And finally, for my sisters and me, our dad is a community leader, a consensus builder, a teacher, an uncle, a parent, grandfather, and one hell of a storyteller. The students, faculty, staff, and citizens of Melrose will be able to utilize the Learning Commons, and the community will know that it is named after a man who loves his city, a proud Melrosian, who grew up in the same neighborhoods, played at the same playgrounds, walked the same school halls, and dedicated his life to improving learning at all levels, with clear expectations and values, directness, and of course, a warm smile. For the most part, my dad is done giving speeches, but we all know he loves a good round of applause. So for one last time, I ask you to please stand and join me in welcoming the kid from Melrose, whose hard work and dedication made a positive impact on generations of students across the United States, and more importantly, our community. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. David T. Driscoll.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it. By the way, I thought the Patriots were playing at 1. Now that it's 4, I can take this. Certainly want to begin by thanking Mayor Brodeur and Chair McAndrew and Jeff Riley. Now, Jeff Riley, I don't know if you know this, he's Commissioner of Education. He's appearing at Giggles tomorrow night. He visited Melrose High School a couple of months after being named commissioner. And I find it interesting that nobody knows why he did, but he did. And so I asked him. And it was interesting because when he came, he talked to parents and students, and Kelsey, didn't Kelsey do a great job, by the way? Kelsey said to him, you know, my father had your job before you had it. And he said, thank God you look like your grandmother. But I asked him why he visited Melrose High School. And he said, because I heard they have a terrific principal. And I wanted to see him in action. And so. My mother always said, count your blessings. And Jason Merrill is a blessing. You know, Kathy's gotten an awful lot of acclaim. I don't get much credit for carrying her for 50 years. By the way, if you want to know any serious educational philosophy, read my book. I'm not kidding you today. I hope you'll take time to look at the wall, by the way. White Light's visual, I found them by accident, believe me. They did a phenomenal job. Half of it isn't true, but that's okay. They did a tremendous job. But Kathy clearly is, well, she was close to a saint when I married her. In 53 and a half years, I put her over the top. And everybody that knows her knows she's just terrific. Caring, thoughtful, just a wonderful, wonderful woman. However, she does have a feisty side. Now, she's only showed it a few times. When we were first married and she was first teaching, she decided to buy a new car. And you might remember in those days, many of you remember, you used to sort of barter with the salesperson, and there was a game, you know. And then when the salesperson claimed he had given you enough discounts, he said, well, I've gone as far as I can go, I have to go see the manager. And then they played this game. Well, believe me, she prepared. And she went, and about halfway through the negotiations, the young gentleman made the mistake of saying, well, why don't you go home and get your husband and bring him back? Jack Welsh, you'll be happy to know we're the only ones that got a car at cost. So then it became time for me to retire, and she decided to retire at the same time after her career. I retired on August 31st. She had to stay until early October for her birthday. And so I started a consulting business, and I said to her, you know, and this is true, she had a phenomenal program. She developed a phenomenal program she did it herself, at the Regional Vocational School, Northeast Regional Vocational. It's a reading program. She's a reading teacher. She's teaching reading to high school kids at the vocational school. She would get them literally reading from the 5th grade level to the 9th grade level in a year. She used very special software. She had special programs, computers, etc. She played classical music quietly in the background. One day a football guy said, hey, Mrs. D, you forgot the music. It was just a phenomenal and tremendous success. And of course, typical public education, she left, the program died. But anyway, she had this great program. So I said, well, you know, dear, you should really take that program. And I mean, if you're conscious of me being in Massachusetts, you could do it in New Hampshire, Rhode Island. You get this great software, all these people. It'd be terrific. She looked me dead in the eye and she said, now, what part of retirement don't you understand? Delighted to have, obviously, my 4 children here. Karen, the oldest, very dutiful, had a great career here at Melrose High School as a gymnast. 4 years, the team only lost 1 meet in 4 years. They won the Middlesex League 3 years and 4. She had a great career, very dutiful, went on to Boston College. 3 children you've met, Kelsey and Amy, and you'll meet Jake. And just terrific. And then Michelle came 13 months later. She was quite different. She was in the band, she was in swimming, she was in Odyssey of the Mind. There's a thing where we co-coached her as a senior in high school, all-girls team, by the way. We won the national championship. We won the state championship and went to the nationals. So I always remember the first day of school when Karen, beautiful Karen, was a first grader and Michelle was in kindergarten. So we were having dinner and I said, and I noticed something was wrong with Karen. I said, Karen, what's wrong? She said, Dad, Mom told me to take Michelle and take her down to the kindergarten room, and she wouldn't let me. So I dot my high school coach's eyes over to Michelle, who looks up from her string beans and she says, what the hell, I know the way. Next came Carrie Ann, who was also a gymnast, but unfortunately hurt her back and wasn't able to continue. She went on to Stonehill College and then went and just recently left because of this little guy as an over 20-year teacher of kindergarten and first grade in Medford public schools. And we're just delighted with Jack. You can let him go. He's going to do his thing anyway. He's just he's delightful. And then, of course, there's Bryan. Bryan, if you don't know, is in the wine. In fact, he'll sell you wine if you want. He's in the wine business in Argentina, behind Mendoza. And at his 5th reunion at Trinity College, one of his classmates said, geez, it's so funny that Bryan's in the wine business. Because when he was at Trinity, he thought wine came in a box. But my favorite story about Bryan is, after he graduated from Trinity, he was working in New York, and he called me and he said, I understand you're going to India. And I said, yeah. He said, well, you know, my friend Fran and I want to come. You know, Fran, we want to come with you. I said, Bryan, it's an education trip. You know what I mean? We're visiting schools. And, oh, I don't care anything about that. He said, I just need a place to hang out. We got you know, my boss has special flights, and so we get the plane all set, we get places to go, and so he said, I just need a place to crash every now and then. We figure we could work it around your schedule. I said, okay. So we go to Mumbai, and it's a large Taj Mahal, and I'm up in my room, and I realized I needed money, so I grabbed the money and went down to the lobby. And the only problem with this hotel, it's a beautiful hotel, was the elevators took forever. So I get down, I get to the front desk, and I give the guy the money. It's like a John Hannett joke. And I said, like, to change. He said, well, do you have any ID? Do you have an identification? I said, geez, I left it up in the room. Yeah, I get the money. And I look over at the elevator. Now it's getting crowded. And I said, oh, this is going to be forever to back up and so forth. And he knew that, very polite young man. So he's trying. He said, well, what room are you in? I said, I'm in 1410. He said, oh, you Brian's dad? So, I don't know, Mayor Brodeur, you've added a child. I was the youngest of 10. It does say so. I'll have to check on that 11. So it's worth telling the story of my birth. I was born on a pretty cool morning in October. We were living on Upham Street. We were renting, by the way. My mother knew, mother of Ken, it's time, she said to my father. So they went out in the car, and the car wouldn't start. So he said, I'll get Jimmy. Jimmy was my oldest brother. And my mother said, no, don't bother Jimmy, he needs to sleep. Get Bob, who was 1 year younger. So Bob comes out. Bob's 3 kids here. And he winds up pushing the car, which never did start, down Upham Street. Luckily, it was down. But then when he got on the Lebanon, he had to, push it. And so they tell the story that after I was born, the family had a choice, because we didn't have any money, so they could either afford to take the baby home or the car. And I'm glad they chose the baby. By the way, we always joked, we had a wonderful family. We loved to laugh, and my mother used to be part of this joke, but really, we always joked about Jimmy being the favorite. And so they tell the story the year before I was born at Christmas time. The Christmas tree caught on fire, and my oldest sisters had gotten jobs, so they had a little money coming in. They bought my mother a beautiful coat, and so there's a fire, so my brother Jimmy grabs the coat, and he's headed for the tree. And at the same time, my sister Eileen comes in with water and throws it, puts it out, so the smoke's coming up. My mother comes in, there's my brother with the coat. And she said, oh, thank God for Jimmy, he saved my coat. So I was blessed in many, many ways, including this community, as has been said, but tremendously blessed by a great family. And we've lost 8 of them, but I have my sister Betty here, lifelong resident of Melrose, with her husband Franny Conley, lifelong resident of Melrose. 90 is in their rearview mirror for both of them. Tremendous couple. Let me introduce my sister Betty and my brother. Incidentally, Fran is cousins to a family you might have heard of, the Turners. You might have heard.
Yeah, mine.
If you haven't, go down Main Street. Also here is my wife's sister and her husband, Camille and Roy Condon. Courtney's walking, he's even younger than Jack. Dylan Roy is around somewhere. By the way, last year Roy was inducted into the National Lacrosse Hall of Fame. So that's really it. I only have one serious note. And if you look at, I hope you'll take time to look at the wall. They did a fabulous job. There's some great pictures, and it's just terrific. By the way, I want to thank people who have come a long way. Roy and Camille came from Florida, as did Rosemary, and I see Ellis Lane from Maine, and our friend Gordy Lewis would have been here, but, and John McLaughlin, by the way, if you know him, he's, as somebody has COVID. But if you look at the wall, there's a picture there of me in the White House with President Clinton in the East Room. And this was July of 2000, which was his last year. And it was a conference about the needs of Hispanic citizens. And in the morning, we had workshops. And there was a workshop around immigration, there was a workshop around healthcare, there were various other aspects, and of course, education. And then in the afternoon, we all sat, one person designated from each of these areas sat with the president. And during that conference, somebody said, Mr. President, in the year 2026, this is going to be a majority-minority country. And he said, I'll never forget him leaning back, and he said, you know, I have no idea what America's going to look like in 2026, but I'll tell you one thing, it's going to be an interesting place. Well, as you may know, we became a majority-minority country a couple of years ago. And in fact, the public schools of America have been majority-minority for at least 5 years and maybe more. It is a changing world. And I'd like you to think about this high school 20 years hence. It might surprise many of you in Melrose to know that there are more African-American students living in Melrose than there are African-American Metco students today at this high school. This is going to be a very, very different place, as will our community. And that's why I'm so proud of the community for adopting the slogan, open door. Now the trick will be to prove that. I want to end by telling you let me tell you one story quick about the kids. So I said to Amy, look, you got to have, the kids call this the LC, the Learning Commons. I said, you got to have the kids start calling this the DLC. And so I came up one day and I wanted to take that picture that you saw on the paper. And she said to me, Papa, they're not calling it the DLC. I said, what are they calling it? She said, the Driz. She said, you were up, and they said, the Driz is in the Driz. But I want to end with a story that many of my family members, by the way, there's many nieces and nephews here as well. They've heard probably too many times, it's how we named our wine. Bryan remembered the story. So my father grew up in Holyoke, my mother in Westfield. And my father made a lot of money in the silverware business, so much so that he was assigned out to California. They moved out to California and went through the Panama Canal on a luxury liner with 6 kids. Arrived in California just in time for the Depression and lost it all in the stock market crash and limped home in an old Packard with 8 kids. And by the way, the picture of the Packard and the picture of the luxury liner was on the wall. They came back, and he was going to make another fortune. And he decided to move to Melrose because his boyhood friend from Holyoke had settled in Melrose. And he said, good, I'll be in Melrose, I'll be close to Boston, I'll make my fortune. And then he had Jack and I. Jack, by the way, was editor of the Boston Globe. So he never really made it. And my mother would have to juggle between paying Benson Goss and Abe's Market, whatever, just to make do. And my father would come home on a Friday night, and he'd say, Mary, we're going out for lobster. And she would say, Frank, do you really think we should go out for lobster? You know, it's kind of expensive. And he would say, Mary, we're going out for lobster, let the rest of the world go by. And so when it came time to name our wine that we have in Argentina, Malbec, by the way, Bryan came up with the name Passe Tiempo, passing time. And I think often, particularly today, with the busy lives we all lead, we ought to think about let the rest of the world go by. My father never did make money, but 10 children, 43 grandchildren, 77 great-grandchildren. We make 77, Jim. And too many great-grandchildren to count, and they're spread all over the place. So I would submit to you, he was a wealthy man.
He was.
And that's what I learned in this community, and that's what I took through my entire career. I am so humbled and honored to have the Driz named after me.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you all. The wonderful stories. I've really enjoyed getting to know David a little bit better over the past few months, working on this dedication and this event, and hearing his stories has definitely been the best part. So thank you. As we officially dedicate this space in your name, it's my pleasure to invite forward Margaret Driscoll for some closing remarks. I think we have a theme here about leaders in the education space with the last name Driscoll, who have made a robust impact on this community and our schools. Margaret is the very best kind of leader, one who always puts students at the center, and she's a wonderful school committee colleague. Margaret?
Good morning. First, I have to just comment on Bryan's note about David's hostile driving. And there's something about Uncle Bob and cars, because as I recall, Uncle Bob ended up as the driver for you, David. And so without Uncle Bob, I'm not sure David would be here today. So thanks, Uncle Bob. And thanks for his 3 children for being here today, too. And thank you, Jen McAndrew, David, family, and friends. It's wonderful to see you today. It is an honor and a privilege to serve on the Melrose School Committee to support the district's 4,000 students, their families, the staff, and the community at large. It's also a great blessing to be a member of the Driscoll family. No one knows the joy of intersecting service and family better than David. Now, when you marry into most families, you're identified as an in-law, right? You're an in-law. Well, when you marry into the Driscoll family, you are branded an outlaw. A badge of honor and pride. You are officially in the clan. The hallmark of the Driscoll family is that more is better. That each heart expands with one more soul in it. David, you are the master of this philosophy and practice. In David's world, there are no strangers, just family and friends he hasn't yet met. And David, you don't just meet people, you adopt them and you lift them up. You help them find the best version of themselves, push them to believe in their potential, encourage them, coach them, and champion them. Then you expect them to pass it on. That's the power and legacy of leadership and love. There is no more fitting dedication to the Driscoll family and to you than this beautiful space, where learning is palpable, where the students you cherish thrive, where an adventure is found in every book. And life is made better by the intentional trajectory of purpose that happens here every day. What you've given to those of us who serve, those you count as friends and family, and those friends and family you haven't yet met, is today enshrined and will live as a testament to the gifts given to you by J. Frank and Mary and your many family members and friends, and that you continue to pass to those here, around the country, and around the world. With that, I'd like to invite forward outlaws and grandsons, Mark and Jake Rowe, and Chuck and Jack Dowling, for the unveiling of the rendering. One, two, three. And with that, we thank you all for coming and hope you will return to see the completed tribute and this beautiful space whenever you can. Thank you so much.